Hello and welcome back to the Invictus Racing League new F1 League, now on a Monday, and bringing you all of the action throughout pre-season and through the next 4 months, all the way through to mid-February will be Sab and I. Good evening, Sab. Good to be back in the box with you.
It really is good to be back. It does seem like a while. I know we've been doing the podcast in between, but it does seem like a while since we were sat in a race lobby raring to go. Yes, like you say, it's the F1 League now tonight. It should be. I'm really excited to commentate on this and watch this this season, this race, everything about it. We've got so many fantastic drivers in here. If it goes how I imagine it could go, we could have one hell of a title fight this season.
Yeah, it's going to be an absolutely explosive season. Cannot wait for this. And as we said, it's the new IRL F1 League. It's an amalgamation of two leagues from last season. The No Assists Championship, of course, which was always on a Monday with Sab and I. And equally, the Wednesday night Equal Performance F1 League has come over to Monday. They've joined together and they've become the IRL F1 League. No assists will be used apart from Racing Line. Racing Line will be allowed to be used this season only, and then after this season, that Racing Line must be turned off, and we will see the best of the best go up against each other. But yeah, as you were saying, there's plenty of talent in the league, but equally, I mean, you can look down through the list that we can got right in front of us here. Plenty of new drivers that have joined us for this season, and equally a couple of guys that have moved over from the Wednesday leagues, and it's really going to mix up that grid, isn't it? Because there's plenty of unknowns here.
Yeah, there really is, and you look at the likes of Harry, for example, who came in towards the end of last season. He was an unknown, and he blown the water out of the pool, so to speak, didn't he? With the guys, they did not expect to come in and get right to the very front, claim race victories. So some of these new guys will be hoping for such an impact as well tonight. Try and find their way into it, and who knows, they could upset some of the veterans of this league and really stake their claim in for a chance pushing for the title.
Yeah, absolutely, and there's plenty of chances for guys to do that throughout pre-season races. And of course, we're racing tonight here at the Paul Ricard circuit, Le Castellet, in the south of France, and it will be 50% race around here. Clear weather will be used for this evening. Of course, it's just a test race, so these guys are getting their eye back in on the track after a couple of weeks away, and perhaps have be a little bit rusty off the line. So we'll ease them back in a little bit gently, and off to Japan next week for the second and final pre-season race before we head to round one in Hungary in a few weeks' time. And looking down through the list of drivers, we've got the team list in front of us. It's been put up on the website, so make sure if you haven't seen it, go to the website and check out the team list for all four F1 2019 leagues this season. And you've got the Mercedes-AMG Petronas F1 team, and it's our reigning constructors and equally reigning drivers champion in FPL Charlie, alongside his teammate from last season and former champion Boy Ben OSP, otherwise known as Scott. They will be retaining their place in the Brackley and Brixworth engined car there, and yeah, there's a strong Mercedes pairing between the two. On to Ferrari, you've got Burmeister out of Racing Point into the Ferrari. He's partnering new driver for this F1 League on a Monday night, and that's LER Luke, and Luke and Burmeister in the Scuderia Ferrari team. Haas F1 is going to be a multi-time race winner, an incredibly strong team, and that's going to be Sammy Pepito and White Fountains. So the Spaniard and the Belgian joining forces in Haas is going to be an absolute rocket of a team there. And of course, Sam was teammates with Schofield, who unfortunately won't be joining us for this season, but I'm sure he'll be watching the races in his season off. But yes, Sam and White Fountain making up that Haas team. Renault F1 is Andrew Lockdock and new driver Infinity 846. And in fact, Infinity is a driver otherwise known as Ashley, who I first raced with many, many years ago when I first started racing in league racing, and he's incredibly quick. So really looking forward to seeing what Ashley, otherwise known as Infinity, will be doing in Renault. We have the McLaren team. Of course, it's the Warrislander, the F2 champion from last season. He will be partnering with Meg Lugby, who in fact was his title rival in F2 last season. So those two partnering up in the McLaren, and the Dutchman and the Brit will be going to look for some decent points when they're back in on the Monday nights. Aston Martin Red Bull Racing is Simon 118 and PTRL Kelvin. So Simon back in the league once again. Kelvin, new driver, completely unknown, so be interested to see what he can do in that Red Bull machine. Alfa Romeo is Rasty and Foxy Red 2000. And Foxy Red, I'm looking forward to seeing what he can do here. Of course, he's won races here, and he's a little bit disappointed. I know that Foxy's a big fan of the Monaco circuit. It was on the calendar last season, not on it this season, but I'm sure Foxy will have his eye on driving around the Principality in a few seasons' time. Rocket Williams Racing is that of Harry, BR25, and El Norris, or Lee. And yeah, Harry, two-time race winner at the end of last season, won 2 out of 5 races, was on the podium for another 2 in those 5, and so Harry, a potential title challenger so far this in the pre or the early pre-season, even for a tyre has entered the track surface. Harry has been putting his hand into the ring, or putting his cap into the ring for a title fight, and then on to Toro Rosso, and it is the 3-time champion Speed Queen 80. She partners up with CPI Alex once again, so those two in the Toro Rosso. Sab, that is a whole lot of talent sitting on the grid in front of us.
It really is. It's where do you go for constructors? I'd probably have to go with last season's constructors champions, Mercedes. They're obviously going to be the favourites in my eyes. But as you point out, that Haas team is incredibly strong. Sam, who, as we dubbed him last season, he's Mr. Podium, isn't he? He's always seems to find a way onto that podium, and White Fountain picked up numerous race victories last season. If he could just find some more consistency in his races, I'm sure he'll be right up there, not only with the constructors with Sam, but also fighting for the title. So yeah, it's going to be hard to call who's going to go for the title in the Drivers' Championship and in the Constructors, because we've got so many strong pairings this season.
Yeah, it's going to be a real cracker of a season. And there you go, on screen in front of you, it is France. Le Castellet, the Paul Ricard circuit, 15 corners, 6 to the left, 9 to the right, 5.8 kilometres, 3.63 miles. Uses as test circuit for the Michelin team, or the Michelin tyre supplier, and of course is illuminated by the blue, red and grey zones, different levels of abrasion, of course. So don't be spinning up those tyres if you go off the black stuff, because you will be taking tyre life out of them. And of course it's 27 laps, full throttle, 58 to 60% of that lap. Gear changes is 46 over the lap here on average, and that makes an average of around 1240 over this 50% race distance. It's this F1 layout that we are on this evening is one of a potential 167 different types top speed around here, 325 kilometers an hour or 202 miles an hour on that Mistral straight. Sab, it's been compared to a little bit of a car park occasionally. What are your thoughts when it comes to Paul Ricard?
I don't particularly mind racing around here personally. I've had a few good races in my Invictus career around here. I won here in F3 last season, so I'm obviously going to say I enjoy it. But yeah, as you say, it's crazy the amount of different layouts you can have around this circuit. It is a bit sore on the eyes, isn't it, with all the colours and the blue and reds and everything else. But as we see now, as you pointed out, clear sky for this first pre-season race. Some of the cars will be coming out very, very shortly. As we see a Ferrari of Luke, he's heading straight out onto pit lane, ready for his first run. He's coming out onto those medium tyres. It'd be interesting to see what different strategies people go with tonight, whether they're just trying to find their feet, their first race of this season, or whether they're just going to get straight stuck into it. It's going to be a very interesting first qualifying session so far tonight.
Absolutely. And what are you thinking when it comes to these guys? Of course, it is pre-season. It is a time to just test out the waters and find out what you're feeling back on the game. You can see just on board of LER, Luke here as he just weaves side to side, tries to get a little bit of tyre temperature into those medium compound tyres. What would be the game plan here? Would it be going aggressive and trying to make that statement, or is it just getting your eye back in and perhaps being a little bit more conservative and taking it easy and just getting the laps in and getting yourself ready for the Hungarian Grand Prix in a few weeks' time?
I would probably, for myself this week in my racing coming up, I'd probably go with the latter there. I'm going to probably want to try and get everything settled and get myself back into a rhythm I know best. I don't want to try and push as hard as possible and have an early mistake, an early retirement in the race or early retirement in qualifying. I want to try and maximise the amount of time I'm getting on that track. So even if it's a case of you probably qualifying a bit further down and finishing a bit further down, if you can get those laps in and get that practice in ready for that race in Hungary, you know you're going to be a bit more confident when coming into that first official race of the season. You don't really, in my opinion, you don't really want to be going into first race of the season only covering say 12 or 13 laps because you may have made a mistake and DNF'd, which is not good for you at all. So for me, that's how I would go. These guys obviously are much better racers than I am, so these will probably prove me wrong and set storming laps at any moment now. We had the yellow flag in sector 3. I assume that's just for slow running car, but as we see now, Luke now on those medium tyres, he's now heading out for his first flying lap.
Yep, just on board here with Foxy Red 2000 sitting right behind the Ferrari there of Burmeister, and in fact he's sitting right in the toe. So interesting little bit of strategy play here for Foxy, because he's on much softer tyres. He's on the red walled soft tyres compared to Burmeister on the hard, so he's going to pick up this slipstream, but equally you'd think that he's going to have much better traction off the corners, such as the chicane coming up here, as it's going to be possibly hindering him ever so slightly. But we'll see if Foxy does continue with this strategy of going on the soft wall tyres, because of course they will go off earlier in the stint and the race, and possibly going aggressive straight off the bat with the soft tyres. And you can see there Foxy's out there on the softs along with the likes of Sam, set them in the pit lane. You've got Agiloctor, Infinity, Charlie and Simon also out there on the reds, and we've still got a yellow in sector 3, possibly a So driver. And you've got there, you can see just how much more grip that Foxy had coming around that corner there at turn 9 and into the final few corners of the lap. Foxy Red, he's possibly cost himself a little bit of time here, so interesting little bit of strategy play from there. He's going to pull to the side, and in fact he's going to beat Burmeister to the line, and they go across the line, and Foxy does do the fastest lap. It's a 1:34.4, but only 3/10 faster, and there you go, Luke up to the top with a 32.1. So Foxy Red keeping himself behind the Ferrari has cost him quite a bit of time on those soft tyres.
Do you reckon he's practicing for later, following a car closely with all the dirty air and stuff? Do you think that's a possibility of what he's doing, to see how the car handles on those soft tyres, running closely behind the car? Because that's what it come across to me as we see now. Simon, he's just popped up and gone fastest so far with a 1:31.8 on the soft tyres in his Red Bull. So Simon, as we know, he's pretty handy, isn't he, in qualifying when it comes to qualifying well. He just had a bit of bad luck when it comes to races, so if he can rectify that in the future, I think Simon could have a fair few good races this season.
Yeah, absolutely. Simon been electric fast in qualifying last season. As you said, wasn't quite able to translate that through to race pace, but yeah, the Swede up there at the head of the field so far, a 1:31.844. As he currently heads up, we've got White Fountain on the hard tyres. What can the Belgian do as he comes across the lines up onto the second row of the grid? It's a 32.4. Good lap there from Fountain. Multiple race win last season, and was very unlucky. We've said before in the past throughout last season that he self-admittedly said that he just had an off season. I've had very, very good races, or he had incredibly poor races, and it probably in the end cost him the chance to fight for the championship, because he took the most amount of wins out of the season, but unfortunately for Fountain, it wasn't anywhere close to the championship come the final race.
No, it wasn't. It was a shame for White Fountain, because for one of my favourite races of his was Brazil last year, where he came from the back of the grid after, I think he DNF'd in qualifying, and he came from the back and stormed to an excellent race victory, and thoroughly deserved. He was absolutely phenomenal that race, and that race for me just shows what he's capable of when he is fully on it. And for his sake, I hope he can do that more this season, because if he can, we're going to have a list of possibly 8 or 9 drivers going for this title. It's going to be fascinating to see what he can do this season, White Fountain, in that Haas alongside his teammate Sam, who, as we've pointed out, is also lightning fast. I'm currently just watching Infinity, one of the new guys. He's in his Renault car. He's coming around the final corner now. He's on the soft tyre. I'm not sure what he's going to be doing. He's going straight to their line now. What is he going to post for his first lap? His first lap takes him up to 9 with a 1:34.6. So possibly room for improvement there for Infinity.
Yeah, Ashley, or otherwise known as Infinity, a slow sector 1 it looked like. So yeah, he will look to improve later in the session. He's only the second slowest driver, the third slowest after FPL Charlie, the current reigning champion, puts down a 1:36.5. So possibly they're just trying to play a bit of mind games the rest of the field and putting himself lower down the field. So we've had El Norris up into 4th position, a 32.7 on the hard tyre, so that's a good lap there from Lee in the Williams. And of course, teammates with Harry this season, and Harry down in 8th position currently, just on board with Sam now. Sam coming into the final corner of the lap. What can he do on his first flying lap there out in the Haas F1 car? He's going to come across the line. It's going to be a 33, possibly a 34. It's a 34 flat, 34.066, so that puts him into 8th position. Scruffy lap there from Sap, but we've got everyone else. By the looks of it, we've got an outlap for Kelvin, an outlap for Speed Queen. She's coming out on the soft compounder tyres. Sab, who are you looking at with this sort of the first runs done? We've got 9 minutes 45 seconds left to go. Has anyone impressed you with that first flying lap?
Simon, definitely. Simon's set the benchmark. He looked mighty fast out there, but I fully expect the likes of Speed Queen. Can I just say, it's going to take some getting used to seeing Speed Queen in a Toro Rosso this season after a couple of seasons in that Ferrari. She's out there at the moment on the outlap on the soft tyre. I'm just on board with her now to see how she gets on with. Oh no. She's come straight back in, so I won't be watching the Speed Queen. She's probably not enjoyed that setup or the tyres or something. She doesn't quite like it. She's back into the pit lane, so I won't be watching Speed Queen. So Warrislander could be another one. You pointed him out, F2 champion last season in the Ferrari, in the McLaren even, sorry. Warrislander, I think he will be, it'd be one to watch this season, Warrislander. I think after the mega second half of the season F2, I'm sure he can surprise a few people, like you pointed out in podcast last week, that you could surprise a few people and potentially pick up a race win or even some podiums this week. So Warrislander definitely one to keep an eye on, as he's out on his hard set of tyres on his outlap at the moment.
Yeah, Warrislander was absolutely mega in the Equal Performance F2 League last season. In fact, took 4 wins on the bounce, I believe it was, maybe even 5, and yeah, he strolled to the F2 Championship in the end. So yeah, the Dutchman, very young guy, but incredibly level-headed and mature, and he knows exactly what he's doing. And he'll equally be joining up with Energy Dan on Wednesday nights to commentate on the F2 League this season. So make sure you tune in for that, because Wout, or Warrislander, he was brilliant when he deputised for you a few weeks into or towards the end of the last season. So yeah, congratulations to joining the commentary for Warrislander, and good luck for the season. And we're just on board here with PTRL Kelvin, who is out there on the medium tyres, and we'll see if he sticks with it. We're coming down to that famous scene corner now at turn 7, and it's going to be, we'll see, can Kelvin get himself up into the top 10, or his teammate there just about getting out the way, and Simon maybe just getting in the eye line there of Kelvin as he came round, entering into the 3rd sector. And now just a few corners left to go for Kelvin. And what can he do? Currently without a lapped time, or timed lap I should say, sorry. And Kelvin coming across the line. It's going to be a 31.772, and that currently puts him pole position and locks up the front row with Simon as the Red Bull 1-2.
That is a mega lap on the medium tyres from Kelvin. I was just on board with Warrislander. Now, it was either very well timed or very lucky for Warislander, because he found down that Mistral straight, he found his teammate Meglupi and got one hell of a tow down there to the chicane, and Meglupi pulled to one side nicely for Warislander. So Warislander got a really decent tow down there, which no doubt will help him on this on his first flying lap. If it was planned, it was very well achieved by the two McLaren drivers. He's coming round the final corner now, Warislander, set his first flying lap on the hard tyres, remember, and he jumps up to 5th, a 1:32.4 on the hard tyres. He's currently the fastest guy out there on the hard tyres, so that's a really decent lap from him.
Yeah, great lap from Kelvin, and we've got Adrian Lockdock, who's just gone up into 7th position in the Renault, and that's a pretty decent lap from Adri. Of course, he had a bit of an off season last season, had a great race in Bahrain, unfortunately just missed out on that debut podium. Adri will be looking at pushing himself up towards the top end this season, as we see a slow McLaren there just getting out the way of Adri, but it looks like Adri may be on that maybe on an in lap now. We'll go on board, we'll see. Luke K just going for a slight excursion. There is Simon goes back to the top of 1:38.56 on soft tyres. So that's still maintaining that Red Bull lockout at the moment, but it's now Simon that jumps back up ahead of his teammate by just under 1 second. So Simon, he's going aggressive. He's going for that possibly, it would have to be an impressive one-stop strategy. He's going to have to stretch those soft tyres out, because around here it's really up to the drivers how much they push the tyres, because you can be relatively conservative, but equally you can be pretty aggressive if you want to around here, and you can take off a lot of tyre life, and especially these guys running no assist. Of course, ABF switched off, traction control switched off, so they've got to really be smooth with their controls and how they're moving the wheel. And so Simon, and equally the likes of, we can see everyone on the mediums at the moment, as Calvin retires from the session with 4 minutes and 22 seconds left to go. Haven't seen that happen. We've got yellow in sector 3, so it must have been out on circuit, I'd imagine, but it's now been cleared. But yeah, it looks like everyone's starting to just gear up, ready for that final flurry of laps, as we've got 4 minutes left in the session. And Sab, you've got the likes of Simon currently sitting on that 1:30.8. Who do we think can challenge him? Because at the moment everyone's favouring that yellow medium tyre.
It's interesting, isn't it? Unless they go onto that soft tyre, which they don't really seem to want to, I don't see Simon's time getting beat. I've probably just jinxed him saying that. I'm on board with Sam at the minute. He was about 3 to 4 tenths up through the second sector on the medium tyres. He's going to come across the line now. He should be much quicker. He is much quicker. He's up to second place with a 1:31.6. That was a very tidy lap from Sam, because in the first sector it wasn't the best from him, but he made it all up through the second sector and clearly made it all up through the third sector, and to jump right up to second place on those medium tyres, you would fancy Sam to be in a strong position against Simon, who will have to try and look after those soft tyres a lot more than what Sam will, and Sam, as we'll know, will be able to go longer into the race. So that was a very strong lap there from Sam. It'd be very interesting to see where his teammate White Fountain can potentially go when he does eventually come out of the pits. Yeah,
and we know that Fountain has got a lap of the gods sitting underneath him, and he quite regularly last season would wait until the last seconds of qualifying and come out and wait till that checker flag had dropped and put it on pole position. So we know that he's got a bottle of lightning sitting inside that car if he needs it. Foxy Red is going to come across the line to start a lap. It looked like he bailed out of that last one. He was 15 seconds down, so it's probably not a competitive time. But the Senna helmet inside that Alfa Romeo, that doesn't look quite right, but there you go. And it's Foxy Red now heading down through the first sector down into this almost tricky, you've got to keep it off of the rumble strips there, and it can unbalance the car, and he's done very nicely not to lock up the tyres going into the first around turn 6, now into turn 7. DRS will be wide open, don't run out wide. He's done nicely there. We've got a yellow in sector 1, possibly a slow car. DRS wide open on the Alfa Romeo. Foxy now coming down towards the chicane at turn 8 and turn 9. Can he get it slowed down? He does. No locking of the brakes, so nice bit of car control there, but runs out wide. So we'll see if that's compromised this time, as we've got Liam Norris retiring from 3rd position in the Williams at the moment. His teammate Harry down in 12th, so Harry not enjoying the track at the moment. So only a 34-1 for the 2nd Williams driver, as Foxy still going around. We'll see if he sticks with this lap, or that was a slight excursion across the curbs on the exit of the chicane. So it will be interesting to see if the stewards will have allowed this lap to continue. Sam retires from the session. He's happy with that 2nd position at the moment. He's held off the fight from the likes of Nee and Kelvin. We've got Foxy coming across the line, and it's up onto the front row of the grid. Great lap there, and obviously that lap was allowed to stand to 31.6 there for the Alfa Romeo, as we've got CPI Alex in 7th position at the moment. He's just about to start that flying lap. White Fountain, Warrislander, Adrelokdok all out on flyers, as Harry moves up into 4th, so that's much better from Harry.
Yeah, and you've just missed as well. Sorry, Luke K has gone fastest in his Ferrari on the soft tyres, just under a tenth faster than Simon. It was a mighty lap from Luke there, and I think Simon will be a little annoyed by that. I think he thought everybody was favouring the harder tyre, and on that soft tyre he might have got the pole position in the bag, but unfortunately for Simon, has he got across? Yes, he has. Simon has got across the line with 3 seconds to go to get on one last flying lap. So can Simon, on this very last lap, stick it back on pole position? It'd be very fascinating to watch him for this last run.
Meg Lugby up to 8th position, immediately displaced by Infinity as Ashley goes up into 8th. So those two, 8th and 9th currently, but we've got Alex, Fountain, Warrislander, Adri, Speed Queen, and Simon out on track as well. But obviously Simon much further up the grid than those guys, but it's going to be still a lot of movement on the track, as here comes Alex, going to come across the line on the medium tyres. Where can he improve to? 10th, he doesn't move anywhere, he stays 10th. We've got White Fountain going a second faster at the moment. He's on the soft tyres, so Fountain, he's coming up to the end of the lap now, and just a few corners left to go. What can the Belgian do? He's put on the red wool, the softest rubber. Can he get himself up onto the front row? Can he challenge for the pole position? No time left remaining. Is he going to do it once again? He does. It's a 30.5. Great lap there from White Fountain. He goes up onto provisional pole with Simon left out on circuit. We've got Warrislander comes across the line. Can he improve? Warrislander goes up into 9th position. Simon is going to come across the line. He's going quicker. Is it quick enough to get himself back up onto pole position? It's only 2nd place, and it's by 0.03 of a second.
Simon, I was riding on board with Simon then, and he was down in the first sector, and I thought he'd blown it, but then he made up 2/10 in the second sector, and I thought, we're going to do it here. But then when you pointed out White Fountain, and what he normally does, doesn't he, White Fountain? Like you say, he's got a mega lap in his pocket, and I think if White Fountain had to done that, Simon would have stole pole position. But as we see, White Fountain, huge congratulations, 3/100ths of a second quicker than Simon, fantastically close, and very good to see just 2/10 covering the top 3.
Yeah, it's you can see how close it is between, and looking down through, you've got an equalled match time between Kelvin and Warrislander at the exact same time for 8th and 9th position. So there's plenty of close fighting going on. You've got White Fountain takes pole position ahead of Simon, Luke in 3rd position with Foxy in 4th, Harry in 5th with Sam in 6th, Lee in 7th with Kelvin 8th, Warrislander 9th, Infinity is in 10th with Meg, Alex, Adri, Burmeister, Charlie and Speed Queen down at the back of the grid without setting a time. Speed Queen, she came out, had that installation lap, came back in. Has she got a bit of playing strategy that we saw her last season? She did the same thing quite often, playing that strategy game and looking to start on those fresh tyres.
Yeah, possibly, yes, and with Charlie starting down there as well, I assume it's just a case of getting his groove on, getting back into his rhythm, and I'm not I'm not shocked he's down there, if that makes sense. But I imagine that when he's got into his rhythm and the season is fully underway, I imagine Charlie won't be qualifying so far down. But it'll be very interesting to see with Charlie and Speedqueen at the back there what they can do going forward. Can they carve their way through the midfield and potentially get onto the podium? It'd be a tough ask, definitely, with so many fantastic drivers on the grid. But it'd be very interesting to watch those from the back.
Yeah, cannot wait to see the start of this one. Of course, formation lap is on. These guys will be heading off for it now, and it will be White Fountain that will lead these guys around ahead of Zyman. So you've got a Belgium, a Swede, a Dane, and a Brit making up the top 4 positions there. So a multinational grid this evening, and showing it's going to be it's going to be an absolutely fantastic race to open up this pre-season. Of course, pre-season 1 of 2 races. We're heading off to Japan next week, and of course, guys, if you are looking at watching some more pre-season action, this isn't just the only race this week. Of course, we've got the Realistic Performance League starting their pre-season campaign tomorrow night with Tim and Malc in the commentary box for that one, and then equally on Wednesday night you've got the Equal Performance F2 and Equal Performance F3 leagues, and you've got Warrislander and Dan on commentary for the F2 league, and Tim and Malc rejoining each other for the F3 league. So double pairings in commentary for the 2 Wednesday leagues. And of course, if you want to listen to a podcast, it's live on Thursday. Sab and I do the F1 podcast, talking all things F1. And this week we'll be talking about, of course, Lewis Hamilton. We'd like to say congratulations to him, a record 6th world champion, only one away from the famous and possibly one of the best ever. We'll be discussing it on Thursday. Michael Schumacher on the F1 Invictus F1 podcast, and of course the GT Sport DTM League is currently undergoing their pre-season as well. They'll be kicking off their season very, very shortly as well. So they also race on a Thursday night. And of course, you can find out all about everything that we do on the website, invictusracingleague.com, or go to the socials, Invictus RL on Twitter and Instagram, Invictus Racing League on Facebook. And of course, if you want to get yourself on the grid, we've still got a few spots left remaining in a couple of the leagues, so make sure you go to the Apply to Race section on the website. Equally, if you'd like to become a premium member, you can do by going to the website, look at the perks that you can get for it. And these guys here, a lot of them have taken up those perks, and which is why you can see some of them in the car choices that they're in. And Sab, we're coming around to the we've got Fountain leading us around the final corner now. Snap decision, who's going to take first the pre-season race? Is it going to be Fountain? Will it be Zyman? Will we see someone charge from the back?
I'm going to go with White Fountain. Usually when he gets at the front, if he can get away well, he normally gets away really well, and you don't normally see him for the rest of the race. So I'm going to go with White Fountain, but I've probably just jinxed him.
Not that we ever say the wrong things. Famous for being completely wrong the majority of the things that we ever talk about. But you've got the guys lining up on the grid now, looking down towards that long straight, towards turn 1. The engine notes are rising in the back of those V6 turbo hybrids. The lights are on. We've got 3, 4, 5. Pause out, and it's a good start there. No wheel spin for White Fountain. In fact, he's got a much better start over Zyman, who's going to get possibly passed by the inside of Luke. Luke looking to the inside. It's got a good start for White Fountain. He does take the lead quite clearly. Behind it is Zyman, just about maintains second position ahead of Luke. Foxy is looking at challenging up against Luke behind. We've got Sam and Harry battling out over 5th and 6th position at the moment. Sam pushing himself up into 5th position. Looks like a clean getaway for everyone.
Yeah, Sam almost collected the back of Foxy Red. I was riding on board with Sam for the start of this, and he almost ran into the back of him. Had to apply the brakes a bit sharper than he anticipated. He then had Harry in that Williams giving him some pain as well, but Sam managing to hold on to that 5th place. A good start for him.
We've got a couple of fights going on into the chicane. We've got Infinity going up against Kelvin. Meg Luppy was having a look at the rear end of Ashley in the Renault there, and equally Speed Queen, she's still sitting on the back of Charlie, and the field pretty nicely gapped at the moment. No one has fallen back, which is always good to see on the first lap, but it is White Fountain with almost a second lead as we start to exit the final few corners of the first lap, beginning the second lap of the Grand Prix, and Fountain will be delighted with that start.
Yes, definitely. Well, it'd be interesting to see the three soft running tyres, how far they can get into this race before they're going to have to pit, because Foxy Red, he's on those mediums. He's going to want to try and keep with those soft tyres for as long as possible and potentially then start to make a move on them when their tyres start to give up. So Foxy Red at the moment is in a good place. He's pulled a second out to Sam behind him, so when the DRS is activated, Foxy Red should be able to focus more on going forward than what's coming from behind him. So yeah, Foxy Red in a good place at the moment in his Alfa Romeo.
Yep, it's pretty nicely done there as he sits ahead of Sam having made up one position off the line to Harry. Warrislander having a great start there, moving up 2 positions, and he's challenging Harry going down the straight towards the chicane. In fact, Harry's sitting in the toe of Sam there, so he's getting a little bit of assistance. We've got a huge trail of cars, of gaggle of 3 trying to sit in the toe behind. I believe that was Alex with Adrilocdoc and Charlie behind him, but Charlie just over a 10th behind Adri. But these guys all staying in position. Currently Burmeister's made up 2 positions, only Alex and Adri have dropped down 1, so it was a good start there from Alex off of 15th position. But Warrislander up to 7th. He's challenging Harry for 6th position at the moment. He'll be delighted with that start. It's a great one for the new driver coming up from F2.
He really is, and at the minute, Sam is creating a bit of a train. He's dropped to now 1.4, 1.5 seconds behind Foxy Red. Harry right on the back of that task, and also, as you say, dragging along Warrislander as well. Lee Norris just behind. He's only a second behind, so at the moment, when the DRS is enabled, Sam could be under severe pressure, because he could only get Harry challenging him for 5th place, but he could also get Warrislander, so it definitely, I would say, at the moment, is 5th place to keep an eye on.
Now, just to keep an eye, or something we do have to keep an eye on, is that gap for the lead. It was a second. It's now dropped to just under half as Simon is starting to put the pressure back on Fountain. And it looks like after getting those tyres up to temperature, he got a little bit of wheel spin off the line, which allowed White Fountain, who had a pretty much perfect launch in that Haas. And it's now down to 4 tenths per second, 3 tenths per second. So it is coming down. We've got this great little train here of Harry, DRS assisted for the first time. Can he go to the inside to Sab? No, he's not quite close enough to get the move done in a Spaniard just yet, but he is going to stay in the toe. But equally, now that he's had to pull out of that move, he's going to have Warrislander in the McLaren sitting right behind the rear wing of that Williams. They're going to come around the seam corner, and it's holding on to the right hand side. The G-force, the lateral G-force going through the neck there is extreme, and Warrislander looking to the inside there, and this is a great little battle between the 3 of them.
Oh, it is. Harry, I don't think he quite anticipated how close Warrislander was. He went for the move on Sam, knew he had to get out of it, and went in deep into that chicane, and suddenly Warrislander was poking his papaya nose right in the wing mirrors of Harry, and suddenly now we've got a very, very close battle for 5th place. Sam doing well at the moment to defend from Harry. He's trying to show Harry the outside at the minute, down that Simon very early on in lap 4 has already picked up a 3-second time penalty. That could prove costly towards the end of the race. As I was saying, Simon has dropped a few places. Simon has dropped down to 2nd, with Luke jumping up to 2nd. Has Simon's tyres already gone, or is he just making a mistake there? I'm not sure.
It looked like it was a slight mistake coming out of the first chicane at turn 1 and 2. He went wide onto the runoff area, and that dropped him down, gave the impetus for White Fountain to get up the inside White Fountain get Luke to go up the inside very easily down towards turn 3. In fact, Luke under threat from Simon, who's on the fight back after losing that position. In fact, the Red Bull's going to try and go around the outside, touching wheels. He's just about held onto it, but that's going to allow Foxy Red to go up and into 3rd position. So Simon, looking like he was trying to take back 2nd position. In fact, what he's done is cost himself another one, and in fact, you've got Foxy Red go down the inside of Luke. That's a fantastic move if you can fool that one. If pull that one off. It's right on the edge of grip, and there he goes. Alfa Romeo up into position because he's on the outside line now, which is going to allow Luke inside, but no, Foxy Red maintaining position. Great move there from the Alfa Romeo.
Unbelievable battle just behind as well. Warrislander and Harry have been exchanging places throughout this whole lap. It's been unbelievable. Harry went deep again into the chicane in Mistral Straight. He allowed Warrislander to come in. Warrislander then conceded a place again to Harry. Harry has then conceded a place again to Warrislander. They've just been trading places with DRS, and this has allowed Kelvin in his Red Bull to stick his nose in as well. And he's decided, Kelvin's been spun out. Kelvin has been spun out. Oh, that is bad luck for him there. I'm not quite sure if there was much contact there, but unfortunately for Kelvin, that has dropped him right down the order. There was a huge gaggle of cars for 6th places. Warrislander and Harry were battling hard, and it just allowed the likes of Infinity and Norris to come up and catch up with this battle, and unfortunately Kelvin has suffered through that. But yeah, as I was saying, absolute mega battle between Harry and Warrislander, and they're still exchanging places now, and this has allowed Sam to get away and catch Simon up. Simon now dropping down to 5th, and it's built a gap for Sam to get away from Harry and Warrislander. Now Warrislander loses a place to Infinity. It is all going off from 5th down to 6th. It's incredible.
Or it's almost, or it looks like there was almost contact, a little bit of desync there, so ignore that one, guys. There's obviously not the contact that you can see as the Williams is taking a piggyback on the rear wing of the Renault, so we'll quickly move away from that one, guys. It's obviously not what is happening on track, but we'll check in with McLuppy and Luke out of the current lead, it would look like, but we've got a lot of position changing as Luke drops down out of that first, coming in for the first stop off those soft tyres, and we'll just check in, see what tyres everyone was fitting. Of course, Foxy on those mediums, White Fountain on the softs, Sam on the mediums, Simon, of course, losing places. He's dropped down. We've still got Infinity and Harry going at each other, and equally they've got Warrislander right behind, and those two still desyncing around a bit. So we'll move away from that, and we'll check in with the likes of Burmeister. He's sitting behind Meg Lugby. He's got CPI Alex for company, and equally, are you surprised by the lack of movement that we've seen from FPL Charlie and Speed Queens, only up to 12th and 13th?
I am a little, yes, but again, it is pre-season, isn't it? So I imagine they are just trying to get their eye in and just have a bit of fun this first pre-season. I imagine going into the second pre-season next week, we would probably see a more competitive drive from the pair of them. As watching at the front, there's a nice battle here for first place. Foxy Red on those mediums is currently in the lead ahead of White Fountain, just 0.3, but Sam has now, after all that melee further back, Sam has managed to pull away and now getting himself into contention as well, and it makes me wonder now whether White Fountain might have taken too much out of his tyres too early, because Sam now is right on the back of White Fountain. He's going to have DRS. White Fountain also has DRS, but can Sam? He's pulling out now to get the move done. Could it be, they are obviously teammates, could it be a case of just letting one through? Sam gets the move done quite easily. It makes me wonder whether White Fountain Sam gave a call there and just made it easier for Sam to get through, because as Foxy Red is also on those medium tyres, they don't really want to allow him to get too far ahead into the lead. So Sam now promoted up into second, and he'll be chasing down that Alfa Romeo.
Yeah, absolutely. Might be the right call there for the Haas team, and just allow Sam to get ahead. Of course, 7 laps old, these soft tyres, as we've got the 2 Haas cars chasing down the Alfa Romeo, but White Fountain might hope to stay in the slipstream of Sam. In fact, Sam chasing right up to the back of Foxy into the braking zone there for the chicane. Got down to 0.2 of a second behind, and it's going to be a close fight between these two as they come up towards Scene Corner, that fast right-hander at turn 10, and he's just about staying with it. He's peeking to the inside, just letting Foxy know that he's there. Of course, Foxy making a fantastic move on I cannot remember who a few laps ago. It's pre-season 1. Forgive me for my poor memory. I'm getting back into the swing of things as much as these guys are. But yeah, Sam still fighting over first position at the moment. 4 tenths behind. He's still dragging White Fountain with him. Does Fountain come in for a stop? No, he doesn't. He's staying out, but he's now dropped outside of DRS. So this might be a chance for Fountain to consider changing that strategy up. Now he's out of DRS. He's going to start coming under threat from the likes of Infinity and Warrislander in 4th and 5th position. We've still got a fight behind Harry. He's dropped down to 8th position. He's all up behind Meg Lugby in 7th position at the moment, as Luke does the fastest lap of 1:34.728. We had a couple of penalties flash up a little bit earlier. Of course, Simon we saw earlier. There's Sam picking up one, so 1 for Sam, and Charlie picked up 1, and I believe Luke picked up 1 as well. So yeah, a couple of people, and equally I believe Kelvin also might have been slapped for 3 seconds earlier in the race as well. So penalties might come into play come the 27th lap.
Yeah, Harry was also one who also picked a 3-second time penalty. I've been on board with Harry. He's had last 2 or 3 laps have been really scruffy for him. He ran very, very wide in the last sector and almost spun it out of control, and that's what dropped him down to 8th place behind his teammate and behind Meg Luppy. He's back on it now, but there's obviously some work for him to do now in that Williams. It's still, though, a really good battle for 3rd place, isn't it, at the moment? Infinity is about 2.3 seconds behind Sam, and you've got Warrislander, White Fountain, Norris, Meg Luppy and Harry and Burmeister, and even the likes of Alex, all within a second of each other. So very close indeed, as we see White Fountain eventually does give up with those soft tyres after 7 laps. He's into the pit lane now. Yep,
those tyres were done. He got swarmed by Warrislander and then equally by Infinity as well, coming into the scene corner. In fact, fantastic move for Warrislander. He's up into 3rd position now, so he's doing very nicely on his debut. Oh, Sam there cutting the corner pretty heftily, taking out the bollard on the apex of that corner there. And he's still sitting behind Foxy Red 2000 and the Alfa Romeo driver, doing very nicely to keep the Haas behind. It's now into the DRS zone. Can he maintain it? The DRS is open on the Haas. It's closing. Can he pull to the inside, go up the inside? It's going to be close. There's going to be a little bit of contact, but it looks like just about maintaining position from these two guys. They're very clean driving from the both. Looked like there was a slight banging of wheels, but both of them maintaining position and staying unscathed from any sort of incident. Sam right up behind Foxy now into the braking point of turn 11, and he's staying tight on that apex, and he just can't find a way past that Alfa Romeo.
It's incredible, isn't it, this race so far? I think the only problem with this track is it's really easy, isn't it, to pick up time penalty. We've seen another time penalty flash up just a while ago. I was riding on board with FPL Charlie. He's starting to get a move on now. He's within touching distance of at least 3-4 places here. He's right up the rear wing of CPI Alex at the minute. He does have DRS, and at the moment I think Charlie's just out there enjoying himself. He's seen what he can do against these guys, and he's sat in a nice position at the moment. He can see at least 4 positions in front of him, and if he can keep it steady and carry on the way he's doing, he could quite easily find himself right up into 4th or 5th place. So yeah, I think Charlie's still one to watch, even though he's down in 10th place at the moment.
Yeah, well, there's plenty of, you can see no real gaps are forming between the field. It's only really until you look at Kelvin 5 seconds behind and Andrew Lockdock a little bit or 2 seconds off the back of Speed Queen that you think there's any major gaps. As Sam going down the inside once again, can he get it started? No, once again Foxy making that car about 40 feet wide, and we've had Infinity unfortunately coming into contact with the Warrislander into the chicane, and that spun Infinity round. He's going to drop down to about 12th or 13th position. We've still got, look at the cars that are still just nose to tail. We're 10 laps into this race and we have no idea who is going to start stretching a lead, because none of them
Oh no, sorry to interrupt. Oh, disaster. I'm sorry for interrupting there, Gareth. the Burmeister was up the inside of Norris. Norris braked, looked like a little earlier than Burmeister expected him, and that caught Charlie out. Charlie then hit Burmeister. Burmeister took a huge lot of damage. All three of them are having to come in. I swear all three of them picked up damage there, and unfortunately, neither of them benefited from there. They're lucky none of them got spun out either, but it looks like damage for all three cars, which is a shame really, because it was turning out to be a really good battle between all three. As we see, Charlie is changing his front wing, so is Burmeister, and Norris also will be changing his front wing. That's a disaster there, because we were having such a great battle between those three.
Yeah, real shame. And Speed Queen equally had a spin on her own. I believe it was a little bit later, as we've had a couple of penalties flash up there as Luke picks up another 3 seconds, and Harry making a fantastic move around the outside of Meg Luppy going into turn 1 as well. So the Williams up into 4th position, so slowly making up time. But Meg Luppy is trying to fight back using DRS going into the chicane, but isn't quite close enough to send it up the inside. It would be a brave move trying to go around the outside of the chicane, as Harry there still in 4th position as Charlie picks up another 3 seconds. So our reigning champion, unfortunately, his race going from bad to worse after that contact with Burmeister just a lap ago, having to come in, change that front wing. The Mercedes driver dropping down to 14th. His teammate Scott unfortunately couldn't make it this evening due to a fault, and it's going to be a sad evening for the Mercedes team as they will look to recover back. Hard tyres have been put on for the likes of Charlie Burmeister and Speed Queen. They're going to look to go to the end from lap 11 to lap 27 as Warris picks up 5 seconds speeding in the pit lane. Of course, it's the new pit lane that comes straight off of the second to last score, the penultimate corners. Meg picks up 3 seconds as well. So yeah, the stewards pretty busy this evening.
They really are, and up at the front, what a battle we're having at the minute between Foxy Red and Sam. They're changing positions quite regularly here. Sam just about got in front earlier in last lap, and then Foxy Red came back at him, DRS down the start-finish straight. Foxy Red managed to get his car back in front, but now you would imagine Sam, who's right on the back of that Alfa Romeo, would get that position back very shortly down the Mistral straight here. Can he do it? He's gaining. He's going to possibly throw it down the inside. It's going to be too late. Foxy Red defends nicely there. Sam unable to get the move done, but yeah, absolutely fantastic battle at the front. They were banging wheels at one point as well, and neither of them giving each other inch. It's good hard racing, but not too hard that it's causing damage or forcing anyone off track. It's just good hard racing, and as you can see, Sam trying to go round the outside. Fox Red not having any of it either, and yeah, these two are pretty much racing round the track side by side. You would think they've got a tether attached to them at the moment.
This is like a game of Scalextrics here, of these two nose to tail, no one wanting to give up an absolute inch of track space there. But what racing! And in fact, they both come in flashing in, and God, that was a reaction speed there for both. As you see, the brakes are put on, and as you can see, Harry and Alex both following them all in, so all of them deciding to not allow anyone to have that undercut. And we're going to have Adri, looks like he's going to... Meg Luppy takes the lead of the race with Adri in 2nd position. Luke is going to try and see if he can come out ahead of those guys, and he does move up into 3rd position, but out they come now. So where does Foxy file back out onto the track? As unfortunately Simon, and that's unfortunate for the Red Bull driver, retiring from the session in Sector 3. And the front row sitters, as Sam goes wide, picks up 3 seconds, almost just on those cold tyres, just couldn't get the car slowed down, had to run wide if he wasn't going to collect the rear end of Foxy Red once again. And these two are going to re-engage in what has been an absolutely magnificent battle over the last 5 or 6 laps. Yeah,
it's been absolutely fantastic. White Fountain now, I tell you, Foxy Red is going to get sick of seeing Haas cars tonight, isn't he? Black and gold cars. He's been peppered by Sam, and now White Fountain is now decided, I'm going to have a go. He's on much warmer, much rubbered in hard tyres. Now Foxy Red will be getting his tyres up to temperature, so White Fountain sensing an opportunity here as Foxy Red trying to get his tyres up to speed and into this race. So White Fountain hot on the tail. Is Warrislander is not too far away from this battle. It's just over a second with Sam following close behind, but like we said earlier, this race, unfortunately, the way they keep flashing up at the moment, this race is going to come down to penalties, and it'd be a shame really, because we've had such great battles throughout the whole of the race
sorry,
so far.
just to interrupt you, Sab, as Charlie and Lee come together at Seed, and Charlie in fact drifting around the entirety of turn 10 opposite lock on the Mercedes, and he then runs into the back of what looked like Lee, and he's going to lose it again. Charlie, this is messy, straight into the barrier, and unfortunately for the reigning champion, just caught himself out there. It looked like the Williams was letting him back through. He didn't see it, ran into the back of him, lost control of the car, and messy few corners for our reigning champion. And it's not going to be I said that race was getting worse and worse, and unfortunately for Charlie, it couldn't get much worse at the moment, apart from losing another bit of front wing. And I'm sure the team will be starting to charge him for carbon fibre parts at the moment for the amount of front wings that he's going to have to be replacing. As Meg Lugby now trying to stave off the threat of the Toro Rosso of CPI Alex, and Alex 0.4 of a second behind. DRS wide open as Fountain picks up 3 seconds there. So everyone's starting to struggle on penalties and track limits this evening, as Alex there couldn't quite get the move done on Meg Lugby. But you've currently got Andrew Lockdock leading the race. He's yet to stop. He's done 13 laps on those hard tyres. Luke, of course, is going for a different strategy. He's on soft tyres, 8 laps on those, so he's going to have to stop again once again. Infinity in third position, of course, he will have to most likely stop again if he hasn't stopped. No, he hasn't stopped already, and in fact he jumps ahead of Luke. They're both fighting over position as Luke comes into the pit lane and in fact picks up 5 seconds for his worries there, as we've now got White Fountain, Warrislander and Sam falling back somewhat as Adri picks up 3 seconds. So I can't really keep up with all these penalties that are flashing up here, but I feel like I haven't stopped talking for the last 30 minutes or so. But you've got White Fountain looking at the back of Foxy Red, and it's now, as you said, it's a different Haas car that's deciding to challenge that Alfa Romeo.
Yeah, and that Haas car is dragging that McLaren car along with him. Foxy Red is going to be on some mega pressure again. His practice for defending is definitely going to be right up there in his first race of this league season. White Fountain got it all wrong there in the DRS straight, and White Fountain he's trying to push Warrislander as far over as possible. He did not need that, as Warrislander senses an opportunity here, and White Fountain just about hangs on there, but he got that straight all wrong. White Fountain, instead of him attacking Foxy Red, he found himself massively under pressure from the Warrislander, and now the Warrislander sensing an opportunity here. Can he go up the inside? They're going side by side. They bang wheels, and there's been a lot of banging wheels tonight. And as Warrislander does he? Yes, no, yes, he does about, but no. White Fountain is not giving up. And how many times have we seen this tonight? Cars literally following each other around the track, and Warrislander just does not manage to get the move done. Foxy Red will be thankful that is all kicking off behind him. You would think now if he could possibly push on ahead and break that 1 second gap and allow them two to fight, it would give him some much needed time off from defending. But at the moment, White Fountain keeps 4th place, and now, well, for his sake, we'll be hoping to try and focus in on Foxy Red again, as Warrislander was trying to give him much of a headache in the last lap or so.
I think they're lucky that this track is relatively wide, because they are definitely using all of it, and the McLaren and the Haas coming into contact, coming around seeing the fastest corner on the track, that famous turn 10, taking at full or strong lateral G's as you put a whole load of load into that front left tyre, and coming into contact. How they both kept it pointing in the right direction is beyond me. The car could control there was superb between the two. As Warris Lander, he closes up to that rear end of the house once again. He's getting a much better run through the for the first part of the chicane there. So that's given him this exit that's going to allow him once again to challenge. Is he going to go to the outside? He's going to be pushed to the outside by White Fountain. He's going to try and swing round this time, and he almost it is done, but White Fountain comes back at him. These two, it's just, yeah, pick a position, guys. Fourth or fifth, you're both battling over it. Let's trade positions every now and then. What a fight we're seeing between them.
Well, if this is a preview for the new season, well, we're going to lose our voices after race 3. This is unbelievable so far. Both the Hasses have been in some mega battles at the moment, but what it has done is it's allowed Foxy Red to build that 1 second gap, like I said, and it's broke that DRS now. So if Warris Lander's clever now and he keeps White Fountain ahead of him going into the DRS straight, he should relatively have a good move on White Fountain, because White Fountain won't have the DRS now. So Warris Lander potentially sensing an opportunity here, and Foxy Red, who's now broke that gap, can hopefully, for his sake, push on now and try and chase after Infinity in first place.
Yeah, it's going to be tight, and Foxy's going to have to start stretching that advantage out, because we know that the likes of Sam is good with his tyres, and we've seen him in the past run them very long into the race and not take tyre life on him. So expect him to come back strong, as Warris Lander looks to go around the outside of the chicane. He's trying to force his way through White Fountain. He's going to find there's contact between the two, and that's so unfortunate for Warris Lander. He just got on the outside and onto the curbs. And as White Fountain came across, that's put the McLaren into the wall. Unfortunately for him, he's now got to do the second half of this lap with no front wing at all, and that's a real shame to end that fight. He gets out the way there of the fight between Alex, who has managed to get ahead of Meg Lugby, as he gets out the way of his teammate. But yeah, that's a real shame for Warris Lander. And but as you were saying, if that fight between himself and White Fountain is something we're in store with, we're going to get a absolutely cracking season. Hopefully, it'll be a little bit cleaner, because you can say it's been a little bit messy from a lot of drivers this team. A lot of penalties, a lot of mistakes. Yes, they've had a few weeks away, but of course 15 seconds of track extending penalties here in Invictus does get you a disqualification, and it looks like a lot of these drivers this evening are making the most of this particularly easy track to run over that apex and over those white lines, and just to make that track that ever so slightly a little bit wider.
Yeah, I agree. It has been a very scruffy first pre-season race, hasn't it? I'd imagine when we come to Japan, where Japan really isn't that forgiving, is it? That they step it up somewhat and we see more of what we expect. It has been some fantastic battles tonight, and unfortunately I think it was always going to happen where someone was going to lose out as badly as Warris Lander did. But Warris Lander, from my point of view, he can't be too disappointed with how it's ended tonight. He's proven to me especially, and probably to yourself, that he can battle with these guys in this league, and for the future of this season, I think he's got a great opportunity of scoring good points and even potential podiums and wins. Warris Lander looking very racy tonight, but unfortunately, like you say, it's turned out to be quite a scrappy race, as we see Infinity finally does pit on the medium tyre he was on. 17 laps he's done it. He's going to be coming out onto the soft tyre, so expect Infinity, when he does eventually roll out of the pit lane, to be very fast for these last 9 laps or so. 8 laps.
As Sam picks up another 3 seconds there. Looks like Luke is shaping up a move on Kelvin going into turn 1. Here comes Infinity trundling down the exit of the pit lane. He's going to come out just outside of the top 10, but he, as you said, he's going to be lightning fast for these last 8 laps or so. And You've got Luke looking to get it slowed down behind Kelvin. You can see he's got a lot more grip at the moment compared to his the Red Bull ahead of him. Speed Queen picks up 3 seconds, and that's something you don't tend to see too often. Speed Queen picking up time penalties there, so she's not having the greatest of races, down in 13th position at the moment, but unfortunately not as bad as FPL Charlie, who is down in 15th, and our reigning champion as Warris picks up another 3 seconds there to go, with a couple that he's picked up early in the race, and that 5-second stop go for speeding in the pit lane, as we've got Kelvin now still challenging with Luke going towards Scene at turn 10. Will he look to peel to the inside? We've seen a lot of attempted overtakes around Scene corner, which is just something you don't tend to see, as it's an incredibly hard corner to keep it on the ragged edge and keep yourself within the limits of grip and of traction. But Kelvin here just shadowing Luke, and it has allowed Adri to start pulling ahead. He's now moved up by 1.4 seconds, and behind we've got Speed Queen. She's caught up to Burmeister at the moment, so the Toro Rosso catching up to the Ferrari of Burmeister, and that's the closest battle we've got on track at the moment. Foxy Red, he's got a 2.4 second lead over the Haas of White Fountain at the moment. Sam 2.2 behind them, but with the Mercedes of Charlie down in 15th position, it's going to give the Haas team, that we've already said is going to be particularly strong this season, a nice little confidence boost going into the second pre-season and the first round of the season in Hungary in a few weeks' time, knowing that they're going to be competitive, and perhaps there's a little bit of a chink in the armour of FPL Charlie.
I agree, yeah. I imagine Charlie's coming into this race just to enjoy, but for me, you can enjoy it and still be competitive, and I think he may have come into this race just to enjoy the race, and for me, I'd say he's a much better driver than I will ever be, Charlie, but I can't see what the benefit of doing a pre-season race stuck down in 15th is going to do you, whereas you've got one of your rivals in the Haas team, who are currently sat in second and third, who will be going into next week's race full of confidence, whereas you've got Boy Better Know, who's not racing here tonight, Charlie, who's stuck down in 15th and had a really scuffy race by his standards. So yeah, I would say at the moment, even though it's pre-season, you would probably say the small advantage at the moment is with the Haas team. I've just been watching Infinity on his first outlap on those soft tyres. He's already made up 2 places. He's currently on track now to try and catch up with Kelvin. He's about 2.2 seconds behind him. You would imagine eventually, as White Fountain, there's another time penalty, he picks up 3 seconds. You imagine Infinity would eventually catch up and overtake Kelvin. So Infinity here could be on for a good end to the race for him in the Renault.
Yeah, and it'll be a nice little boost for the brand new driver to Invictus, as he comes out and he can find that he can be fighting within that top 10, as Norris picks up 3 seconds there, adding to the extensive list of track extending penalties we've seen this evening, as Speed Queen hassling the rear end of that Ferrari ahead. And of course the Ferrari is the car that we're so used to seeing her in, and but deciding to swap to Toro Rosso and putting herself back in the what will be called the AlphaTauri from next season, so that won't be confusing with Alfa Romeo at all. But there you go, Speed Queen, she's peeled to the inside. Can she get the move done on Burmeister going into chicane? They're going to go side by side. Burmeister's going to have the inside, but he's not going to be able to. In fact, he runs out wide across the white line, picks up 3 seconds himself. Speed Queen up into 12th position. Harry in 4th position. It's not been a particularly bad race from Harry, and although he'll be looking at possibly pushing a little bit further up, and we were talking to him before the race, and he was saying that towards the end of last season he didn't really have anything to fight for coming into the season so late, but he knows this season that it's all to be maintaining consistency and fighting for the championship. So as Charlie picks up 3 more seconds there. But yeah, Harry, it's a completely different really challenge for him, because last season it was coming in and just kind of getting used to it and getting running the ropes ever so slightly, and now it's gearing up for a championship challenge.
It really is. It's a whole different scenario for him now. It's not a case of just going in and just enjoying the last few races. He's got to focus on what he could potentially do long term, and if he can get himself right in there from the beginning, he's got a real good chance of challenging for this title. He's proven it to us, didn't he, last at the end of last season, he can fight right up there. So it'd be very interesting to see what he could do long term over the season. But he's going well there in fourth at the moment. I'm still watching Infinity. I just want to point out he's got the move done very quickly on Kelvin. He's long past him now, and he's pretty much on the rear wing of Luke now in the Ferrari for 8th place. So Infinity, if he can get past Luke fairly quickly here, which you would imagine he would get the move done either on this lap or at least the next lap, with 5 laps to go, you'd imagine he'd be able to reel in his teammate Adrian Lockdock, who's in 7th. They're only about 2.9 seconds behind us as Infinity. Oh no! There is my jinx for you. Unfortunately, Luke and Infinity have collided. They were going side by side, and it's pushed Infinity out and dropped Infinity right down to 13th place. So, yeah, I'll stop bigging up Infinity now. I'm really, I'm sorry about that, but bad luck there for Infinity. He was flying, and unfortunately now that has dropped him right down the order.
Yeah, second spin for the Renault driver this evening, and if you'd like to post any complaints, feel free to post them directly to Sab for jinx anyone in the races. And of course, he then picks up 5 seconds speeding in the pit lane. You can then tell it's frustration for the Renault driver as he retires from the session. And he was doing very well, but he can be content with that. It was, although it's a frustrating end to the race, as you said, it's all about just getting your eye in at the moment. And unfortunately, just that contact between himself and Luke is something we'll look to iron out, and we'll see if these guys can come back in Japan a little bit stronger than what we've seen so far, because as we said, it's been a little bit testy this evening between a couple of these guys as Adri looks to close in on Meg Lugby at the moment. But we have to commend Infinity on his time management there, because running those mediums, I believe it was lap 18, lap 19 before he came in and pitted onto the soft. So a very nice time management for Infinity in the Renault this evening, and possibly we'll be looking at pushing towards the top 10, definitely top 5s maybe even when it comes to the race. But we've got Foxy Red currently leading by 3.1 seconds, Sam 3.3 behind his teammate at the moment, Harry 5 seconds behind there. But I mean, Sab, do you want to take a guess at the moment about who's going to finish where with all these penalties we've seen flash up?
Yeah, I would probably need a calculator and probably an abacus and everything else to try and work out who on earth has found who picks up another 3-second time. I wouldn't be surprised if 3/4 of the field is disqualified with the amount of penalties we've seen tonight. But just forget the penalties for a second. Foxy Red has had a strong night tonight, hasn't he? He's looked good out there, and fully deserves to be up there in first place. I'm currently riding on board with Adrian Lockdock now. He's closing in on the McLaren of Meg Lugby at the moment. He's really in quite nicely. He's on the medium tyre, whereas Meg Lugby is on the hard tyre. Hard tyre 10 laps as well. He's got a yellow flag in sector 2. I'm not sure what that is for at the moment. Is it Sam? Sam has gone off.
It is. It's Sam that's gone around, and it looks like he's getting out the way as well of this battle between Adrian Lockdock and Meg Lugby there. Has he got front wing damage? It doesn't look like he has, but it might have just cooked those tyres, and Sam getting out of the way, so that's dropped him off the podium. So with only 3.5 laps left to go, that Sam possibly using up those tyres. And we said earlier that he's usually particularly good when it comes to looking after those tyres, but perhaps making a slight error in the chicane. Looked like he was pointing in the wrong direction. That's promoted Harry up onto the podium. Equally, Alex up into 4th position, and Alex will be happy with that at the moment. He was saying that he's not had that much practice due to other things going on, as Sam retires from the session, comes into the pit lane and retires from that. So possibly an external issue from Sam. We've got the battle going on between Meg Lugby and Adrian Lockdock behind, and Meg with that blue, white and yellow helmet just about holding back the Spaniard of Adrian Lockdock behind. And Adri, this is a strong race for him, because we saw last season that when Meg picks up 3 seconds, but we've seen Adri last season, especially in the likes of Bahrain, when he's on it, he's a particularly fast driver. It's just that consistency he was lacking last season.
Yeah, definitely. And if he can get that consistency right, I wouldn't be surprised to see him do well this season as well. I'm just bear with me. I'm just scrolling through, just trying to briefly work out who could potentially finish where, as we see a good battle between Meg and Adrian Lockdock there. I'll allow you to carry on while I have a quick glance through to see what's what.
Yeah, get your scroll out of how many you're going to have to write down. But yeah, it's going to be the side by side of Adri's got the inside down into scene. Can they stop from touching each other? It's all like magnetism between the two. But it's inside line for the Renault. In fact, he just cuts across the front nose of the McLaren there. So Meg having to stamp on the brakes ever so slowly. But Adri does move up into 5th position. So good move there from. And yeah, guys, if you want to play a drinking game, it's take a shot every time a penalty flashes up in this race, because I think you've been enjoying yourself a great Monday if that was the case. But we've got Norris in 9th position now, challenging the rear end of the Red Bull of PTRL Kelvin, and Norris currently just over half a second behind. DRS will be, of course, inactive for him. And down towards turn 1, he's not able to get the move done just yet, but he's probably going to try and line him up for the exit of the Mistral Straight towards the chicane later in the lap. So we'll see what he can do with that and try and push himself up. Of course, unfortunately for him, came into contact earlier in the race with Charlie, which is a reason why Charlie's so far down. And talking about Charlie, there he goes, picking up 5 seconds and adding to. He's probably about 4.5 laps down with the amount of penalties that he's picked up this evening. So it's not been the greatest of the evenings for our reigning champion. And he's going to go on to the soft tyre and possibly look at doing a Charles Leclerc and trying to pick up at least the fastest lap, even though it wouldn't get him any points. Of course, no points for pre-season. But here we are. We've got. League currently sitting in 9th position and really close behind Kelvin now, coming towards Scene Corner at turn 10. Will he peel to the inside and try and go side by side? And he's going to try and get the move done. He's taken the inside line. He looks like he's got the move done. Oh, Kelvin had snap there on the exit, trying to keep control, and they're still battling, but it looks like the Williams has moved up into 8th position as Foxy Red is on to the final lap of the race.
My guess is Foxy Red will win this with CPI Alex in 2nd, based on penalties. That is my guess, is how it will. If it stays as it is now, that is my guess how it will happen. Could be completely wrong, but just based on the fact that White Fountain and Harry just have that much more penalties than Foxy Red and Alex. I don't believe Foxy Red has even got a penalty behind him. So, yeah, it looks like it's going to be a good first race for Foxy Red, and it'll be a good race overall for Alex as well if he does jump ahead of these guys who've got penalties ahead. But I was just watching Meg Luppy. He's trying his hardest to catch up with Adrian Lockdock, and he nearly collided with him just after the Mistral Straight and had to get out of it and run wide, and unfortunately that's dropped him quite a bit off the back of Adrian Lockdown now, and I don't think he'll get the move done. But yeah, Foxy Red looking good now for the race win, I think.
There's still a little bit of a battle going on for the final points of the. We've got Burmeister, Speed Queen, and Luke battling on 9th, 10th, and 11th for the moment. Of course, Luke unfortunately spun out of a decent finish at the end of last lap. But we'll just quickly go on board with Foxy Red as he comes up to the penultimate corner of the lap, and he's going to be coming around and crossing the line. He's going to take the flag to end this first pre-season race in the Alfa Romeo. Foxy Red 2000 in the Alfa Romeo takes the race win. White Fountain comes across the line in 2nd position, but now it's anyone's guess about where anyone is going to finish. But White Fountain is currently in 2nd position. Does he hold it to Harry? Harry now in 3rd position. He's possibly going to lose the position to Alex, and he does. Alex up into the pole position. Adrian Lockdock into 4th. That's the best, equaling best result for Adrian Lockdock. McLuppy is in 6th at the moment, and then you've got Norris Kelvin in 7th and 8th. Burmeister is going to come across the line in 9th. With Luke currently in 10th. Looks like he's run out of fuel coming across the line. He's lost the position to Speed Queen. Speed Queen's in 10th. Luke is in 11th. Warrislander, unfortunately, after that contact earlier in the race with White Fountain, he's going to come across the line outside of the top 10 in 12th position. And our reigning champion, FPL Charlie, He's going to finish plumb last of the 13 of 16 that started this evening, and Charlie ending a pretty poor race for himself and not starting off his championship defence in the best way. Although, like I said, it's only pre-season. Just get the chinks out and get the get yourself geared up, ready for the season. But Charlie coming home 13th and last of the runners, and Sab. Busy night for stewards. Busy night, not only track extensions, but a couple of silly incidents there. But Foxy Red deserved that one. Great race there from the Alfa Romeo driver.
He really did, yeah. I don't believe he picked up a penalty, which if that's the case, he is absolutely superb drive for him on his debut here tonight. He didn't. I'm just looking at the final race results. Him and Alex didn't. Like I said, I thought Alex might have just picked White Fountain, but not quite close enough. But yeah, Foxy Red, superb driver tonight. He kept out of trouble. Is probably the best way to describe it. He defended well against both Haas drivers and eventually kept out of trouble, got that gap built, and never looked back, did he? He drove superbly tonight. Like you say, though, a very, very scrappy and scruffy race tonight. Let's just hope it's down to people just finding their rhythm again with this racing, and we can look at Japan next week at being more competitive. But this track, I don't believe, helps either. It's really easy to pick up penalties around here, and because of how wide it is, it's easy to abuse the track limits, isn't it? So yeah, let's just move on, I would say, after seeing all those penalties, and look forward to Japan next week.
Yeah, absolutely. You got Foxy Red, White Fountain, Alex are your podium positions for this evening, and of course Andrew Lockdock and Harry making up the top 5, Meg Lugby in 6th position. So that was your top 6. Yeah, it was a good start. We'll see these guys, as you said, it's a little bit of a messy start. It's all about just ironing out all these mistakes before the start of the season. And, of course, we've got plenty more ironing out for several other drivers for the rest of the league. We've got Tuesday night. We've got Realistic Performance League back for the race. Pre-season 1 here at the French Grand Prix. And then Wednesday night, you've got Equal Performance with assists, F2 and F3. So you've got Tim and Malc covering the Tuesday night race, and equally F3 on a Wednesday night. Dan and the Warris Lander covering Wednesday night F2. So make sure, if you're not already, to subscribe to the channel, and equally, if you are watching and you haven't pressed it already, press the like button, like the video, of course. More likes we get, the more it gets pushed up through the recommendations, and it helps out with that YouTube algorithm. And yeah, so all of your support, of course, is massively appreciated, guys. We will be bringing you full coverage of every race throughout pre-season and through to the end of the season, which will be finishing in Mexico for round 12 on the 17th of February 2020. And so that will be us for season 9, with Sab and I bringing you play by play, lap by lap, as we do the 12 rounds. And of course, we will be bringing you the podcast on Thursday nights, where we will talk all things F1, and equally we will discuss each week's roundup here from Invictus. So a little bit of F1 esports, a little bit of Formula 1 for you to get your teeth into. So of course, you can find that podcast on all of the podcasting apps: SoundCloud, Spotify, iTunes, and hopefully very shortly Podbean. So yeah, make sure, if you're not ready, to subscribe to the podcast channels and listen to Sab and I discuss all about this week, all about how Lewis Hamilton will be doing, and if he's one of the greatest ever. I'm sure Sab's really looking forward to that one. But yeah, congratulations to Foxy Red for a fantastic win tonight. Really well done, and equally well done to White Fountain. But yeah, congratulations for Alex. A fantastic result for yourself tonight, up into 3rd position. Cannot wait to see what these guys can do next week in Japan for the second and the final pre-season race. And Sab, finally, just before we sign off, what are you expecting for this season after that first race? Where do we see the grid moving forward from here?
It's tough to say, isn't it? with the amount of penalties that have picked up tonight, it's tough to say. But I think the Haas team looked very strong tonight. Unfortunately, Sam eventually retired from the race. They looked strong all evening. I think, like we said in commentary, I think they might just have slight advantage at the moment over maybe the Mercedes team. But I think we'll probably get a better idea going into Japan next week, when Japan just brings a whole different scenario of challenges, doesn't it? I think we'll get more of an idea of who's going to be right up there. But if Foxy Red can keep this momentum up and take this into Japan and do similar again in Japan, well, he's looking really good for Hungary. So yeah, it's going to be fascinating to see. But yeah, I'm more now looking forward to Japan, I have to say, because I think we'll see a lot more competitive grid.
Yeah, hopefully so. So make sure you join us next Monday night here at on the YouTube channel at 8 p.m. for that, with course Gareth, which is myself, and Sab, and you can find us on Twitter at GT2_driving for myself, and at Alan Sabatino for Sab, if you'd like to hear more, and equally all of our promotion for the leagues. And yeah, as I said, join us tomorrow night for the Realistic Performance Leagues with Tim and Malc in the commentary box. Wednesday night is the Equal Performance F2 and F3. Thursday night is the GT Sport DTM League and the F1 podcast. And equally, we will be back, as I said, next Monday for the second round pre-season, and then off to Hungary in 2 weeks' time. But yeah, thanks for joining us tonight, guys. Hope you enjoyed the first round of pre-season. Remember, make sure you subscribe to the channel, ding the bell to be notified when we go live with any other live streams, and equally press that like button and get us pushed up through that recommendations. And equally, if you'd like to go to the website and become a premium member, it's on the website, invictusracingleague.com, and you can equally get yourself on the grid if you go to the apply to race section. Plenty of spots left in a couple of the leagues, so yeah, make sure you become part of this great community. But yep, thanks for joining us, guys. We will see you on Wednesday, or we will see you on Thursday night for the podcast. We'll see you next Monday, Sabbath night, for the second round here at pre-season for the F1 League, the IRL F1 League. But for tonight, have a good evening, guys. We will see you on Thursday. Good night.